All right, welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 70. I am, of course, that other dude, Andrew. I'm joined, as always, by Heather, uh,
Hello.
who's wearing an awesome Clutch hoodie, and
Yes.
I'm rocking my Slow Green Thing tee.
Oh, nice.
And if you couldn't tell, I'm visiting my parents in South Carolina, hence the 1980s Freddy Krueger type fedora rather than my typical pork pie hat. And today for episode 70, it was my choice. So I went with a group called Foreshadower. And then I thought we would talk about Diane Louvel, who is a singer songwriter. So do you have a preference with whom we begin? Okay.
Nope, it's your episode. You choose.
Well, I think usually we do the the spotlight on the album we're going to be talking about, and then we go with. So let's stick with that. We'll do Foreshadower first. Um,
Okay.
so
Okay.
Foreshadow, I was when I was thinking of bands, what I wanted to find, who's playing the good contemporary doom now, and that's sort of how I start all of my searches. Like, who's a good band that I may not be familiar with now, but who I would add to my playlist. Um, and sometimes that comes from a YouTube algorithm. Sometimes it comes from, Loudwire top 10 lists. Sometimes it's just seeing a cool album cover somewhere. Um, so that's how I found Foreshadower. And when I read the description that they were an instrumental, like sludge post rock band, I was like, oh, that's right in my wheelhouse. If I ever see shoegaze or doomgaze or really any type of gaze, I know they're going to be in Heather's wheelhouse. So
Yes.
sort of that sludgy doom, all of a sudden it's like Pavlov's bell ringing for me. So Foreshadower, the album that they have out is self-titled. They are from Copenhagen, Denmark, and I believe this album was released in 2019. Um, do you have any? I'll let you. I'll pass you the ball.
Okay. Okay. You know, the song names, they look like latitude and longitude or GPS coordinates, and I don't think I've ever seen that before. But
Yeah,
I was immediately intrigued with that. And the album cover, it looks like it's a planet in space. The whole thing is very mysterious. There's no band member names or any indication of what instruments that they play. I saw one suggestion that the GPS coordinates were for their song titles are the pathway to hell. I have no idea if that's true or not, but that to me that just adds to the mystique. The album is instrumental and it's heavy, heavy instrumental. It gets very heavy and sludgy at times. They have it tagged as post-metal, doom, and sludge, which I think is in both of our wheelhouses,
mm-hmm.
which is really cool. Um, I think the whole intent might be just to let the music speak for itself. The buildup of the sound I thought was phenomenal. And the only way I could think of to describe it is when you get on an elevator and then someone else gets on the elevator and then another person gets on and another person gets on and then the elevator is full. But then there's space in between the people and there's space above you. It's like this music fills in all of the spaces. And to me that's foreshadower.
Yeah. I mean, that's well put. That's a great analogy. Um, and yeah, all the tracks on the album are named for coordinates. Um, I thought that I recognized, it was like 50 degrees, 10 minutes, 54 4.3 seconds. So I recognize that as coordinates on a map. So I actually looked up each track based on the coordinates. So the first track is in, and I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's in Poland, someplace in Poland. The second track is in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Then they're in Bokharan, Cuba. They're in Iraq in the fourth track. They're in Savar Union, Bangladesh in the fifth. Dawadmi, Saudi Australia in the sixth, and the north somewhere in the North Sea in the seventh. Um, and I don't know if any of the songs are representative of any of those or if there's like what the reason is. This opens it up to like all sort of possibilities of what it could be. I have no idea. Um, I also would rather not know. Like, did they visit Phnom Penh and go on a tour and have a couple drinks and decide, okay, let's write a song, that'll be called, based somewhere in Phnom Penh? Uh, but these were a couple of the things that I wrote down as I was listening to it. The first thing I thought is, okay, this would be the soundtrack. If Hell had a soundtrack and it was like playing over loudspeakers, like as you just were walking around, that this would probably be on the rotation. Um, just because it is so heavy. And I feel like it's certainly accessible. Like it's not like you wouldn't necessarily understand it, but I could also see this being a select group of people who would really enjoy it, like really get to the nth level of enjoyment. Um, so that was one of the things I thought. A second thing I thought it was, and I think I'd heard this phrase before once. Um, it was like being hit in the head with a pillowcase full of marshmallows and rusty nails. I was just like, because it like the heavy parts to it. I mean, it does a great job because it's not drone. There is melody there, but it's so heavy. It reminds me of when Milhouse and Bart get the all syrup squishy, and Milhouse goes, "It's so thick." Um, and then it was sort of like I felt like they cut like certain songs. I really love parts of it, and then I'm like, okay, now I got to go through the chorus, and then I love the riff on the verse. With this, I felt like they cut out all the parts I would have wanted to skip. I felt like it was just the savory parts that I would like really. But yeah, and I have yet to really find an instrumental sludge band, so I felt like this was definitely unique. Um, but yeah, I would definitely recommend, wholeheartedly get Foreshadower's album. Try to make
Yeah.
heads or tails of the titles. Um,
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
but again, you don't need to know. Like that's the beauty. You can make up your own story of what you think is happening. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but this,
can't. It seems like there's like a lot like instrumental bands aren't this heavy. It's like this that's what seems really unique to me is the fact that it is instrumental and the fact that it is really heavy like this.
yeah, I feel like a lot of instrumental bands tend to be more on the like progressive side,
Yeah.
or where
Yeah.
it's really complex music that they're playing, so that the notes become the lyrics. Um,
Hmm.
this one I felt like, okay, we're just gonna play some really heavy riffs and chords, and that's it. And like we're gonna let you take that and run with it if you want. And for me, that's like, again, like I said, that's like Pavlov ringing the bell. So I was
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely into this.
And the post metal, yeah, the post metal parts were really nice too. It was kind of like a nice change of pace, between the heaviness.
Sure. Yeah, no, they do it. They like it's interesting. You don't often hear melody like the way they use it in, with that coupled with the same heaviness. There's certainly some, like Crowbar does that really well. They have really nice melodies in some of their songs. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would say go check out Foreshadower to understand what we're talking about, because it might be hard to think like, oh, how could this be any different from a lot of other bands I've heard? And then you'll hear it and you'll be like, oh, now I know what they mean.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so check it out. Foreshadower,
Yeah.
self-titled, from Copenhagen, Denmark, and yeah.
And I don't recall us talking about any other bands from Denmark.
No, this may have, we've done. I know we've done Sweden a few times, and uh, Finland, I think, and Norway perhaps, but yeah, never Denmark.
I don't think so.
So
This might be the first.
we're adding to our repertoire of worldwide bands.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, that's a really. I didn't do as much digging into the fact that like they don't list who the band members are, and there's not indication of who plays which instruments, or at least that's not one of the factors they use in the marketing. So it reminds me sort of like how I once heard somebody say, if you were in an elevator with the members of Tool, you might not know who they were because they took a lot of, pains in keeping themselves out of their music videos and, being anonymous. So, I mean, I could be sitting next to the members of Foreshadower right now and not know who they are.
that's
But
very true.
yeah,
Yes.
but I will be adding them to my playlist because I'm always searching for music I can write to. I've mentioned that a lot. And instrumental music is really helpful for that because you can just let the music take you somewhere.
Yeah.
So because this checks so many of the boxes, it's like a rare. I feel like I've found a unicorn. This is like a rare mythical beast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
check it out.
Yes.
Um, and then yeah, we can talk about Diane Louvel if you're
Yes.
good with that. Before I go into my background, what were your thoughts?
Um, I thought this was a really beautiful folk song. I think her voice has a really distinct tone to it. She can sing low notes and high notes very, very, very well, and that's very difficult to be able to do both. Um, Her voice sounds very pretty with the guitar, and one thing I really like about folk music is it's like a little snapshot into what's happening at the moment. And it's like a photograph that comes to life, and we're getting an inside look, you know, into the story.
Yeah, I when I so the track we listened to is called Grown. It's going to be out May 26th on Spotify. But I think you can not pre-order, but you can have it set up. And I know that she's released a few other tracks before this one, so definitely check it. I think you can go to SoundCloud, and she has a page there, Diane Louvel. Um, but yeah, Grown is coming out 5/26, and she reminded me sort of like a Joni Mitchell, Carole King type type of artist. Like the voice, especially of Carole King, I thought was reminiscent. And yeah, very very cool how the storytelling aspect of it, and beautiful voice. Just a nice song that I felt like if that song was on the Rushmore soundtrack, or like on a Wes Anderson film soundtrack, it would make sense. Like, oh yeah, no, this should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met Diane uh, through her brother Nick. Unfortunately, Nick passed away a couple of years ago, um, but he and a friend of mine had taken a film course together over one summer. So I met Nick, um, and then I became really friendly with him because of our mutual love of movies. Um, and he was an aspiring filmmaker who had made a bunch of stuff on his own independently. And then he made a documentary film called The Uncondemned, which came out in 2015. And it's about the first trial that prosecuted rape as a war crime and an act of genocide. And this was after the Rwanda massacre. So if you get the chance, check out the movie The Uncondemned by Nick Louvel. He co-directed it, and and then yeah, and also Diane Louvel, Get Grown. It's a dynamite track. It'll be out on Spotify on May 26th, and I am excited. I didn't because I knew we were talking about this track. I didn't spend as much time going through her back catalog, but now that I have the time, I will definitely be doing that. If you're into sort of folk singer songwriter, kind not I don't I mean I felt there was sort of a country element to it. Um, more more of like a southern rock type thing, perhaps. Uh, so, but yeah, I would say definitely check it out. She's very talented, and yeah. So if you want a combination of light and heavy, you should check out Diane Louvel and Foreshadower. Maybe listen to them in the same sitting, and you can get the yin and yang.
Yeah.
Because I feel like our show is also a philosophical, you know, treatise in a way of like how to live life. I feel
Yeah.
like you come here, you listen to us talk about music, and then when you're done, you know how to live life better.
And we've both been through some stuff, so
Yeah, no, we
we kind of have a unique outlook on life, and
yeah, I
well,
mean, we're certainly not experts in
yeah,
anything, but this is not our first time to any of these rodeos. So
right,
we
right,
can call them as we see them. But
yes, yeah,
but yeah, check out Foreshadower, check out Diane Louvel, um, and come back and listen to us in episode 71 because then it'll be Heather's turn, and we'll be talking about more Dynamite bands.
yeah,
Cool.
definitely,
All
yes.
right. Well, unless there was nothing else, I will call this meeting to adjourn. So
Well,
have
we're filming this on Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and
absolutely. Yeah, well,
yeah.
I had almost forgotten about that. Thank you for Happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
All right. Well, until next time, friends, keep rocking, keep enjoying.